Hi, teachers. We will have 3 hands-on activities over the days of May 17th and 18th. 2 of those activities are on May 17th. The first activity is about a timeline. You will first watch the video, but before you start the video, the materials needed for this are in the plastic container. They include a folded timeline and a packet with many small laminated pictures of animals. What we'd like you to do is to give each student, make sure each student has a circle of an animal by the time the video starts. Now, what do you do with in this activity? First of all, lay out the timeline. Now, this is the now end of the timeline. It's purple. And the far end is the beginning of the Earth, 4.5 billion years ago. The light green color here indicates the first life, pond scum. First thing you ask the students to do is to look at their animal and think about when that might have first appeared on Earth in the fossil record, and ask them to go and place their animal where they think it might have appeared. This is a jellyfish. If they think it goes, they just put whatever they think. Maybe the jellyfish is right there. Then ask the student, discuss the distribution of all the animals. Probably the students will put all the animals spread out over the timeline. Then ask the students to pick up their animal and look at the back where there is a color code. This one, jellyfish, is light blue. Please ask them to go and put the laminated circle next to its appropriate color. This jellyfish is light blue. It goes right here in the light blue area. When all the students have done this, it's time to discuss and look at the pattern that has been shown. What will be shown is that nearly all the animals, especially common animals that they're familiar with, like dogs and cats and giraffes and so forth, are going to be very much close to have appeared close to the now time in the history of the Earth. And that's the big point, is that most of the life as we know it has been a relatively recent addition to the Earth. Okay. Hi, we're going to talk quickly about the second activity that's going to be done on the first day of the expedition program. And that is, the subject of this is fossils. First, we'll have a video, and the video and this whole exercise will focus on the 5 most common fossils in Nashville. During the video, we will show some of Fort Negley, and we will also focus on these diagrams like this, one for each of the 5 major groups of fossils. Now, you will have a copy of this in your box, one copy of these pictures. This gives information, and what we will do is we're going to introduce these 5 fossils as the first inhabitants of Nashville. And we also want to point out that these 5 fossils can be found anywhere in Nashville. Sometimes they're broken because they were moved by hurricane waves, but yet many times they are there. We can't predict exactly where they will occur, but please encourage your students to keep their eyes open for these fossils. So the idea is for us to show the students how these animals lived, what they ate, where they lived and what parts of them became fossils. This is all done based on the living representatives of these fossil groups, which makes them, the idea is to bring the dead piece of fossil alive as a living animal. So the spoiler alert about this is that all of these animals live in the ocean. All of the animals lived on the sea bottom. All of these animals got the food by straining it and getting small bits of food products from the ocean. And at that time, the ocean didn't have a lot of food, so they had to be very efficient at doing that. And also, the implication is that Nashville at that time was underwater, which it was most of the time, from 460 to 360 million years ago. Those are the big important points. Then, after we talk about these 5 fossils, the video stops, and each student gets a fossil. Now, this is a fossil for each student, but if you want, you can, since you will have these boxes in perpetuity, they're for you. If you want to tell your students they're for them to use today and not to take home, that's your prerogative. We do not have enough fossils to replenish the supply every year. But now they will get a fossil in a plastic bag, and we'll have a number, a letter, A, B, C, D, or E. That is, they are first going to identify the fossil, but then later you can tell them which fossil they have. If they have B, for instance, they have a crinoid. Now, the students also, to help them identify them, the students will each have an identification key or pictures of the 5 different kinds of fossils. Most of them will have living living animal, the representative of that group that lives today, how it lives, and also a picture of the fossil. So what the students do is identify the fossil and fill out the back side of this, which is a worksheet. We want them to identify the fossil, to draw a picture of the fossil in the box, to answer the questions like, where did the animal live when it was alive? What did the animal eat? And so forth. And they write what fossil it is in this blank. Now notice we also have a picture here, and I'll use a big one, which is a diorama of what the seafloor looked like at the time. And we asked them on this worksheet to draw an arrow from the name of a fossil that is above and make a line to the type of fossil in the picture. A few things. Because these animals just sat on the sea floor and got bits of food out of the water column, they didn't move, so they didn't have eyes, and they were relatively, let's say, non-charismatic. There were a few big predators, things like this squid-like animal right here. And there were trilobites that scurried on the seafloor, but we don't have enough of those to include them in their bags. These are common because they just were so efficient and so abundant at getting the food they needed. Now, so when you might want to give out exactly when you give out the fossils and the data sheets with the questions on the back is up to you. A warning, some of the fossils are extremely small, and some of them are also broken pieces. That's just the way fossils tend to be. The ones that are extremely small are probably those that have been on the sea floor. They grew, and there were larvae of the fossil animals which settled on the sea floor and then grew a shell. And so these shells may have been only on the sea floor a couple months before the animal died. Now, the key is this. If it's an A fossil, it's a brachiopod. If it's a B, it's a crinoid. If it's a C, if it's a colonial coral, or D, it's a solitary coral, or E, it is a bryozoans. The most common are crinoid stems, which look like stacked discs. But all of these fossils occur throughout Nashville, and students may find them. I think that's everything that we have to say about these, except that the students, truthfully, what they really want to find as a fossil is a dinosaur bone. And the last activity that will be on the second day of the expedition's program is going to be why they will not find a dinosaur fossil, and no dinosaur fossils have been found. Thanks. Have a good time.
All right, you're good to go.
Hey, teachers. This is our last hands-on experiment for the STREAM Special Expedition program. And what we want to do today is we're dealing with a later time in geologic history, and at that time there were dinosaurs alive. And instead of being underwater, Nashville was dry land as it is today. And the question, but nobody has ever found a dinosaur bone in Middle Tennessee. The question we're addressing is, were there dinosaurs living in Middle Tennessee? And if there were dinosaurs living here, why does nobody found any bones? We're going to answer this question using a model. The model, and you have everything for 3 different experimental groups in your classroom in this major, in this bin. We'll show you what you have. You have a waterproof thing to cover your surface. You have an aluminum pan, a narrow tray like this, and you have bags of sand. First, put the bags of sand in the bottom to weigh this down, and then put the other bag of sand up here. This represents Middle and East Tennessee, and this would represent West Tennessee in this scaled down model. And then in the egg, you have some bones, small bones that are painted orange that represent the dinosaur bones. And you can see them right in here. Put those up in the land, and then you can see what happens as time goes on by simulating rain through water. Put water in this, have it rain for 1 million years ago, and see what happens to both the land, it erodes, and also the dinosaur bones. And then that's the experiment, and it'll be pretty obvious to the students what happens, and they can talk about this after they do it. So now the mechanics of this, you may, whether or not you want to set it up beforehand in 3 groups, divide the students into 3 groups and set it up beforehand, or just do it after Dr. Cantrell explains and you watch the video. So that's basically what's happening, and we hope you enjoy doing it. Be sure to join us for Colossal Fossil Day, when Dr. Cantrell will be here with his dinosaur bones and petrified wood And we'll have other remarkable fossils as well, and students can find fossils in the Vulcan Materials fossil pile here at Fort Negley. We hope to see you then on May 21st from 10 to 2.